Yo guys, Vision's Gen here back with more Marvel Rivals content. Today's video will be showing you the best tank gameplay for each individual Vanguard, the 12th episode of this series so far. And this episode will be for Peni Parker, showing you the best gameplay possible. Now to remind you guys, in case you haven't seen the first few episodes, the catch of this series is that I have to earn the Lord icon on each of the heroes to be shown in this series before I can even upload to the channel. So as you can imagine, that will take some time, but I'm always up for that challenge. And in this video, I'll give you my advice on how best to use this hero, the strengths and weaknesses, the do's, the don'ts from my own experiences, as well as any tips that I've learned along the way for both the character in general, but also on how best to earn the Lord icon in the most fastest and efficient way. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So first things first, as I have done and will do in every episode so far in this series, is to just confirm that this is not a guide on the character or anything like that. I have made guides separately, which is linked in the description below for anyone interested in learning the character's abilities, what they do and so on. This is more so an overview of the character and how best to use them in terms of everything I've learned in my own experiences, what they are specializing in terms of being a counter dive expert or whatever it may be, and then going from there. And as a part of that Lord series, that journey and getting each character to Lord and just giving you guys all of the information that I've learned along the way. So Peni is obviously a Vanguard in this game, a counter dive expert in this game who combines AoE, area of effect, and crowd control to make her both a great offensive force, but defensively using her kit, managing her cooldowns, and timing her abilities well, which allows her to protect her teammates very well, whilst also then shutting down enemy teammates' ultimates, whilst using it and being the most effective in the game, using the L2 ability, the web, in order to shut down the likes of Scarlet Witch, Doctor Strange, whoever it may be, that can be stunned out of that ultimate ability. This is where she's going to be super effective, and where I found her to be so much sort of satisfying and fun to use and really effective, especially like I said in a dive composition where you can find yourself shutting down and mitigating the likes of dive heroes, whether it's an Iron Fist, a Black Panther, Spiderman, Captain America, you name it. Any hero that thrives on ground-based movement, diving and suffocating the likes of your backline, this is where she's going to excel. And this is why I really enjoy the character. I mean, I am a Vanguard main. I've always enjoyed playing as a tank in this game. That's something I just generally lean towards in any competitive environment. This is the main role I would play and sort of suits in terms of my playstyle, but also just generally this character. Figuring out this character and how best to use her was one of the best things I could have done, regardless of the stigma. I appreciate there are people out there that despise this character. There are so many characters in this game that we all despise. You guys may like Iron Fist, I despise him. You guys may despise Peni, I like her. It's just how the game works. There are all different playstyles to suit each of our needs, and I just feel like Peni is like the perfect character in order to shut down the likes of dive pressure, which is why I absolutely love the character. I'm a massive advocate for being able to shut them down. I cannot stand dive players. I get it, I appreciate them, and I understand why they're in the game and why they're effective, and all of the above. And I'm not saying they shouldn't be, like they need to be in the game, that's the whole point of a hero shirt, but you also then, on the contrary, need heroes like Namor, you need heroes like Mantis, even subtle ones who aren't going to be effective at shutting down dives, but have methods, have abilities that can really disrupt the likes of a dive player from being effective, including in the likes of even Venom, who is a super strong dive hero, one of the best in the game, and this is where Peni thrives, because anytime she places those webs in a crucial spot and puts down a load of those arachno mines, this is where she's going to be effective, and understanding how to use this character has allowed me to develop as a Vanguard main in so many different regards, whether I'm playing against strong compositions that are the likes of dives, or whether I just need to be a defensive hero and utilize the rocket team ability in the past. Whatever it may be, this is where I found this character to be super effective, and she just happens to be, in my opinion, the greatest specialist hero in the entire game, a utility expert that relies on using things like traps and mines to be effective. And what I mean by specialist is there are no better heroes in the entire game that fit the role of a certain category better than what I think is Peni, i.e., she is the counter dive hero. If any hero is needed for a dive system to counter the likes of a heavy dive comp, Peni is the most simple solution for that, in my opinion. Yes, you could use Namor in the past when he's had the Gamma team up or the Ice Squid team up, whatever it may be, or whether in future seasons he becomes better for doing it, whatever it may be. Peni has always been, due to the traps and the AoE and the crowd control, using the web, she's been so effective at being a strong counter-dive hero, and that is why she is so strong and so easy to have in your back pocket, because anytime you need to do it, this is one of those heroes you should resort to. And if you're a Vanguard main, or if you're not even a Vanguard main, especially if you play tanks on a regular, you need to have this character in your bag. If you're not, you need somewhat of an equivalent character for each of these. For example, if they have a flying comp, you're going to want to go to the likes of maybe a hit scan character, whether it's Punisher, Hela, anyone that can deal with flyers, that's who you want to go to. If they have the likes of a dive setup, you clearly want to go to the likes of a Penny if you're a tank, or maybe a Namor, like I said, or maybe even the likes of a Mantis, whoever it may be. You need someone to answer for all of these compositions. Whether they are a counter dive comp, you need someone to poke. You can maybe use Moon Knight. You get what I'm trying to say. The whole point is this is a specialist hero. Now, going forward, is Penny an exciting character? Is she really going to be one of those characters you look forward to playing on an offensive point of view? Even defensively, not particularly, but like I said, there's a level of dopamine you get from shutting down ultimate abilities. If you've played Emma Frost and you use the grab in Diamond form to shut down maybe a Strange ult when he pops Eye of Agamotto, or you use Penny and you use the web, it's the same thing. I get an incredible amount of dopamine from shutting down the likes of those ultimates. It's a really satisfying feeling, and I never get bored of it. But if you're not one of those people, I could understand maybe why Penny's not a character you would enjoy, but it's not always about that. It's always sometimes, and more often not, if you're looking for winning games and you want more fun in terms of the winning aspect, this is a character, in my opinion, you should definitely have in your back pocket, or at least to this regard in terms of playstyle. But Penny just fits into a lot of systems based on this, because even in a non-dive setup, she's still good defensively at stopping the likes of poke. Like, yeah, okay, Moon Knight and maybe other characters who can clearly use AoE, whether it's Squirrel Girl, whatever, to destroy their traps, she becomes less effective, therefore probably not advised, but she still works in almost any system. She can solo tank. I wouldn't necessarily use her as a solo tank purely based on the fact that her traps only allow her to be so effective to a degree, and if you don't have a shielding tank in front of you, perhaps a Groot or a Strange Mag, whatever it may be, then she has, in my opinion, I found her to be less effective, but she works in a 2-2-2 setup, which means 2 tanks, 2 duelists, and 2 strategists. That's where I found her to be most effective. I have used her, like I said, in the solo tank system, where I'm the solo tank, but you need so many other things to go right, and you need other teammates or the other team and the enemy team to not go to your counters, which is where she's going to be, like I said, less effective. But as for like her strengths and weaknesses, as I've mentioned and gone over in a lot of detail already, she is just the best counter dive hero in the game. Anytime you do not want to play against the likes of maybe a Venom, Captain America, Spiderman, Black Panther, Iron Fist, literally any dive hero, Daredevil, this is where she's going to slow them down. Now, is she going to completely eliminate them? Obviously not. It's all down to all the other factors that goes into it. But is she going to disrupt them from being effective? Yes. That's the bottom line. There's no if, buts, or maybes about that. That's what her role is. She's there to lock down an area, crowd control situations, stun enemies, use AoE, area of effect, with the blast radius and the explosions from the arachnid mines. That's where she's going to be super effective. And as I said, in a good system, she could be one of the best options that you could have to hand. As for the do's and the don'ts, I would say try not to push too aggressively and try, like I said, play more conservatively. Place your traps in sort of off angles and sort of tactical positioning so that you don't just lose them straight away, because losing the traps means she's a lot less effective, and especially using the aim of the projectile, the main attack, her primary, it's not that effective, it's not flashy, it doesn't really do that much damage. You have to be quite accurate in leading your shots on moving targets. There's a lot that goes into her offensively, but it's all based on traps and crowd control and AoE. So just trying to make sure that you use the traps well is kind of the obvious clue, I would say, or the do that you want to make sure you do, and obviously the don't as well with regards to not placing them prematurely and making sure that you save sort of mines in your back pocket, anticipate aggressive play styles, and anticipate ultimate abilities with the likes of being able to save that web in your back pocket, whether that comes from experience or awareness or just all of the above. When you anticipate that at some point during a round or a game that you know an ultimate ability is coming your way and you are capable of shutting it down, whether it's Strange, who I absolutely love shutting down, or Scarlet Witch, who's a bit harder to hit because she's a flying target, whatever it may be, being effective at shutting them down is a really good do. And like I said, don't just waste the web. If you could try and shut down ultimates and stop people using their shields, i.e., maybe you can freeze the likes of a Strange from being able to pop his shield up, that damage that's going to go past from your duelist is going to allow you to get sneaky picks as a team, and you can be really effective with using the mines. You can place them in off angles so that enemy teams, when they run past certain areas, they can just get hit with like a quick burst attack. And if they're not aware and you're in quick play lobbies where people aren't really tactically aware, especially in the lower ranks competitive as well, this is where she's going to be a lot more effective and more enjoyable, especially from an offensive point of view. Defensively, she's pretty sound. It's like I said, it's all up to her traps and how you position yourself, but her mobility is definitely really underrated. Using the grapple, using the wall crawl, all of these aspects will allow her to significantly just improve her sustainability and just allow her to survive that much longer, to help your team win team fights and just stay in the fight. And especially about regrouping with your numbers advantages, that's really important. That goes up just across the board for any hero, especially as a Vanguard, making sure you are not the first one down and making sure that you regroup your team, especially if you do not have the numbers advantage, because that's where you're going to leave yourself very vulnerable, especially when you lack mobility. But for Penny, she can and is pretty effective with regards to mobility. If you use the wall crawl effectively and you know how to use the grapple and using it on the high ground to gain elevation advantages and whatever it may be, that's where I would say that she is really good and effective from my own experiences. As for personal advice, like I said, I would try and avoid using her unless you have a dive set up against you, purely because there just are better options. Now, it's not saying she's not good or can't be used in any other system. Like I said, she's pretty applicable across the board with regards to systems and meta, but there are just better options. If they don't have dives, there's no real reason to go Penny. So that would be my sort of advice, I would say, personally, from playing as her, and especially as a Vanguard main. As for, like I said, ranking, it's hard to determine where she ranks. There's no like, oh, she's top 3 or top 5, I would say, as a Vanguard, because I said she's a specialist. So really, she's number 1 when it comes to that in terms of Vanguards for counter dive. But for the most part, like I said, if you're not looking at it from a ranking point of view, it's more you're looking at it from a who shuts down this hero the best sort of point of view. That's how I would typically look at it. And then from a Lord point of view, the Lord and hero specific requirement for this character, in case you guys weren't aware and you guys are new to the series, I go over this in every video. Every character has a Lord specific hero requirement, which means having a certain element of that character, whether it's an ability or a playstyle, it will tell you to do this or that. For example, for Penny, it's trying to deal damage using the Arachno mines. So the more mines you place, the better positioning you place those mines, where they're going to catch enemies off guard, the more damage they'll deal, the quicker you'll get the character to Lord. So if you're looking at efficiency, this is one of the best methods, just making sure that you save up those mines, but also use them as frequently as possible so you're not wasting time not placing mines. So there's a bit of a balance, but what I'm trying to say is if you put those mines in key locations where you're going to catch someone off guard and deal a crazy amount of damage, whether you get kills or not, that's another question, which is obviously going to be a bonus. But if you're looking from a Lord point of view and you're trying to grind the character, just that would be my advice for this character and their abilities. But the rest of the stats, as usual, are all pretty much the same. Get kills or KOs using a Vanguard is pretty much the standard one. Getting damage blocked as a Vanguard is an obvious one. And playing, or minutes played, 60 minutes played is the other one. So if you're looking to get the character Lord, try place those mines sort of collectively or tactically, and then that way you're going to deal more damage, and just try and place them in like off angles, because the more hidden they are, the less likely that enemies are going to see them and get caught off guard, which is going to be a bonus for yourself. It's like I said, especially for kills point of view. As for other Lord tips or efficiency, my number one thing is don't play the same character every game. If you're Lord farming, or you're not even Lord farming, but you have in the back of your head that you might want to go for, let's say, all Lord Vanguards, my opinion, don't stay playing the same character over and over again. There are most heroes in this game do not work that well in those systems. Like just depending on who you're playing with, who your teammates are, who the enemy team is, what map you're playing, each hero will have disadvantages versus other heroes, and also based on certain maps and certain systems. It's pretty just common knowledge at this point. We've been playing Rivals for nearly a year. It's just an obvious thing to not do, in my opinion. I am a camo grinder when it comes to Call of Duty. I know it's not relevant, but this point I'm trying to make is, when it comes to getting all the camos, the master camos, if you guys are aware and you know what I'm talking about Call of Duty, I have always said this to my friends and anyone else, don't use the same gun. You don't just use an assault rifle and then do all the assault rifles first, because then you leave yourself with the most boring weapons to the end. And also you'll find that some of those weapons just aren't that great for certain maps and modes later on, and therefore you're going to make it less efficient along the way. So if we're talking about efficiency and you guys want some tips on my advice on how best to Lord farm, if that's something you guys are interested in and that's why you've clicked on this video, don't use the same hero every game. That's my number one thing outside of the hero specific thing, because you're going to find that Penny's just not going to be effective or that good in certain systems, whether you're solo tanking and you're not comfortable doing it, whether the other team has no dive heroes whatsoever and you cannot find any effectiveness, whether it's getting kills, blocking damage, whatever it may be. I would just say try and have multiple on the go, whether that's multiple Vanguards on the go, whether it's multiple heroes, which is what I do. I have multiple healers, I have multiple duelists and multiple Vanguards all on the go at the same time. So depending on who my teammates go is typically who I would then go, because we all know how Rivals works. We don't all get our way with this game, unfortunately. There are going to be games where you have to go a certain role because you need to fill, whether it's healer, tank, whoever it may be. We all know it's definitely not going to be duelist, because who the hell has a game where you don't have a duelist? That's just never the problem. So if you guys are farming Vanguards or supports, this also comes into play and really would help you out there with the terms of efficiency and also just mental state of mind. Having to only play the same hero / role every single game does get really draining, especially if you're losing games and you find yourself in a losing streak. You could just be really unlucky and find really horrible teammates, or you could just find yourself coming across the better teams or whatever it may be. Just playing different heroes and different roles really does help you, especially from an efficiency point of view when you are Lord farming. So that is all of the tips I would say as for Penny in terms of getting her to Lord, all of the tips and tricks, all of the do's and don'ts, and my personal advice based on ranking and experience. If you guys have enjoyed the video, as always, do not forget to like and subscribe, as it massively helps me out. And if you have any comments or thoughts about playing as Peni Parker, or any cool clips maybe that you want to share, please let me know down below in the comments and I'll get right back to you. I'm Visionist Gen, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.